Hello everybody and welcome to another video. This video is probably going to be the first of many videos talking about how you can thrive on a nightshade-free diet. I discovered maybe around a year ago that nightshades definitely wreak havoc on my body, and so I definitely need to avoid them. And to be completely honest, I have been in total denial about this. I have been reducing them, but not completely eliminating them, and that is totally on me, but I definitely want to get better, and so hence I'm making these videos to keep me accountable and just say, hey, you can do this and you can help other people while doing it. So that's pretty much what this video is going to be. Specifically in this video, I'm going to talk about Mexican food. Definitely not authentic Mexican food, but inspired Americanized Mexican food, so don't come after me. So, we're talking about tacos, burritos, nachos, salads, etc. So, yeah. Before we go any further, I do want to mention that everything that I talk about in this video is what I personally do to avoid nightshades while eating and making Mexican food. If you find that these things that I do not work for you, you can figure out what works the best for you by, coming up with things on your own or looking up other recipes. I know there's other recipes out there for like salsas and hot sauces and everything that's nightshade free. But I hope at least this video will start you going into the right direction. And so, yeah, so I just wanted to put that right there before we go any further before I forget. So before we get into the Mexican food, let's just do a quick overview on what nightshades are and talk about a couple points that are really important if you haven't encountered this whatsoever before. And so yeah, so we have a list here I'll put on the screen. This is not a complete list, but this is a list of the more common nightshade foods that you would need to avoid if you're going on a nightshade-free diet. And those foods are tomatoes, peppers, white potatoes, eggplant, tomatillos, okra, goji berries, and ashwagandha. And like I said, this is not a complete list. The first four I mentioned are the more common nightshades that people know about. And so tomatoes, peppers, white potatoes, and eggplant are the most common ones. People usually eat those multiple times a day on a regular American diet. So yeah. A couple notes I need to make here is that black pepper is okay to eat. Black pepper is not a nightshade. It does not come from a nightshade plant. It comes from a different plant. So the black pepper is okay to use to season your food, which is great. And then also sweet potatoes are also okay to eat. Sweet potatoes do not come from a nightshade plant. They come from a completely different plant. So that is brilliant if you are unable to completely give up potatoes, because then you have sweet potatoes that give you that same carby taste. And then the last point I need to make is that you need to avoid tomatoes and peppers in every form. And so that includes sauces and spices. So for the sauces, especially for tomatoes, you need to avoid tomato sauce, ketchup, and then for peppers, you need to avoid hot sauce. And then for the spices, you need to avoid any spice that is made from a red pepper. So like cayenne and paprika are good examples. So yeah, you definitely need to avoid tomatoes and peppers in every single form, not just the raw form. So when it comes to Mexican food, the two main culprits are tomatoes and peppers, and they're used in pretty much everything from salsa to hot sauce to just putting tomatoes and peppers raw on your toppings and everything. So you might think it's a little difficult to avoid nightshades while eating Mexican food or while making Mexican food, but you just need to do a little bit of adjustments with the spices and with the vegetables, and you are pretty much good to go. And so the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to avoiding nightshades is the spices. And so spices, when you think of Mexican food, you think of those nice hot red pepper spices that you use just to give your food flavor and heat, and that's what makes Mexican food, right? Well, when you're avoiding nightshades, you need to not eat those types of spices, and so you need to figure out spices that could replace that warming hot feeling in your food. And a couple of these spices are black pepper, cumin, garlic, ginger, horseradish, mustard, onion, and wasabi. So these are definitely not exact replacements. Obviously, you're gonna have to, adjust your taste buds a little bit, but a lot of these give the warming, spicy, bitey flavor and sensation that you get from those hot pepper spices. So my go-to favorites when it comes to spicing up my food would be black pepper, definitely, and then garlic, definitely, and then mustard. Those are like my go-to things. I am not a fan of horseradish and wasabi. I do definitely want to give them another chance, especially down the line when I'm completely avoiding nightshades for sure. But definitely those are not my favorite. Those are definitely takes a while to get used to and stuff. So yeah. So what about Mexican food? Well, in Mexican food, cumin is used a lot in Mexican food. So pretty much just upping the amount of cumin that you use in your Mexican food can definitely help with the removal of those peppers. But then for me, I also use a lot of black pepper just because black pepper is also spicy in a sense as well. And so those are the two things that I use when it comes to my Mexican food. And you will see this in the recipe I'm gonna show you next. Now that we've talked about spices, the spices you need to avoid and the spices that you can add in, I want to share with you my Nightshade-Free taco seasoning. And this is something that I developed on my own using the spices that I mentioned earlier that I enjoy in my Mexican food. And so let's just get right into the recipe for you. And so for this Nightshade-Free taco seasoning, you'll need 3 tablespoons of ground cumin, 2 tablespoons ground black pepper, 2 tablespoons garlic powder, 2 tablespoons onion powder, and 1 tablespoon dried oregano. And so you put that all in a container and put the lid on and shake it up until it's all mixed together. And then voila, you have a Nightshade-Free taco seasoning. So I use 1 to 2 tablespoons of this seasoning per pound of whatever protein I am using. So either beans or a vegan meat. Add as little or as much seasoning as you need, depending on how flavorful you would like your beans or meat to be. Now that I shared with you how I flavor my food at the base level, now let's talk about another popular Mexican food item that people do to add even more flavor to their Mexican food, and that is salsa. So as you know, salsa is usually a blend of tomatoes, peppers, and onion, and tomatoes and peppers are no-nos when it comes to going on a Nightshade-Free diet. So if you're wanting to have a salsa that's nightshade-free, you need to come up with something that does not have tomatoes and peppers in it. And I know that is a tall order. So when I was starting out, I was trying to figure out what I could use as a salsa replacement, and I did some Google searching and I found a recipe for a Nightshade-Free salsa, but it used cranberries and wasabi, and I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't like cranberries, and second of all, wasabi is a no-go for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm obviously gonna need to come up with something on my own. So I was kind of brainstorming and like, okay, what can I use to replace the tomatoes and the peppers in a salsa? And I'm a big fan of chunky salsas, and so, that kind of helped me out a little bit. So I was thinking, and I was like, okay, I want something that has a similar texture to a chopped up tomato and similar texture to a chopped up pepper. And as I was thinking, I came up with cucumber. And I am obsessed with cucumber. I love cucumber. Cucumber, it's soft, but it also has you can bite into it. It's like crunchy in a way. So what if I used chopped cucumber? And I'm like, okay, let's try this. Using chopped cucumber in place of the tomatoes and the pepper. And then I can still eat onion. And so I put red onion with it. And I put those two together and I was like, okay, this might work. So now that I had the base veggies that I wanted to use for it, I needed to spice it up a little bit. Because I do get a little bit of a tangy spice from the red onion, but I'm like, okay, it needs a little bit more. And so I decided to add, once again, some ground black pepper. And I experimented with this a little bit, and once I got it all together, it worked out perfectly. And now I'm going to share the recipe with you. I will have to say this is not an exact replacement, obviously, but you know, when you avoid nightshades, when you avoid hot peppers and hot sauce and salsa for a while, your taste buds change. And so after a while, you'll probably be okay with using this cucumber salsa as a replacement. So just a little note there, you know, it works for me and you can see if it works for you. For this Nightshade-Free cucumber salsa, you'll need 1.5 cups chopped cucumber, 1/3 cup chopped red onion, 2 tablespoons white vinegar, 1 tablespoon tamari, 1/2 teaspoon ground black pepper, and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And now you just mix all that up in your container. Make sure that it's all evenly coated. This cucumber salsa does get better as it marinates, and you can eat it right away, but it's definitely better after it's been in the fridge for about 24 hours. So yeah, that's my cucumber salsa recipe, and I hope you enjoy it. So now we have figured out how to flavor our food. We figured out a replacement for salsa. But now let's talk about what vegetables we can use in raw form to replace the raw peppers and tomatoes that we use as toppings on tacos, burritos, salads, whatever. Before I had to go nightshade-free, I definitely love to put fresh tomatoes and raw bell pepper and maybe some pickled jalapenos on top of my Mexican food. But when you're going nightshade-free, you can't eat any of those. But there are other vegetables that you can use to replace those vegetables. So I came up with 10 examples of vegetables that are not nightshades that you can use on your Mexican food. There's probably a lot of other vegetables that you can use, but this is definitely 10 of the ones that I like using. And so 10 taco topping ideas that I have for you are cauliflower rice, sauteed mushrooms, any type of greens, shredded red cabbage, shredded carrot, chopped cucumber, chopped red onion, sliced black olives, mashed avocado, and cilantro. So a lot of these things you would use on Mexican food anyway. So it's really nice that there's some of these things that are not going to be alien to you, not going to be weird to you, but you know, some other things might be a little strange. Maybe the cucumber is strange to you, maybe the carrot is strange to you. Carrot is probably pretty strange, but you know, when you shred it up, it's really good. And then maybe the mushrooms are a little weird to you too, but sauteed mushrooms, it's another umami effect into it, and it's really, really good. You should definitely try it, even if you don't like mushrooms. So yeah, those are the 10 taco topping ideas that I came up for you, just to help you, you know, think outside the box. Because I know when you think of a certain cuisine, your mind is just so rigidly focused to like, oh, the normal vegetables that you use in that cuisine. And I know it's really hard just to get your mind off it and to something else. I know I had trouble coming up with stuff I can use with Mexican food when I was trying to remove the tomatoes and the peppers. So, but this is, you know, things that I came up with over time, and you know, maybe I'll come up with new things in the future, but right now this is what I have for you. And yeah, well, you know, that is pretty much the 3 things that I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about how I spiced my foods when I'm not using nightshades. I wanted to talk about the replacement for salsa that I use, because salsa is a very big component in Mexican food, at least Americanized Mexican food. And then I wanted to talk about the vegetables that I use in raw form that I use to replace the raw tomatoes and peppers. And so pretty much I hope I've given you a baseline, a good place to start when it comes to Mexican food. Obviously you can adjust everything to your taste. You know, things might change for me over time as, you know, things get better. Who knows, I might be willing to try that cranberry wasabi salsa in the future. I don't know, I doubt it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I want to talk about. But this wouldn't be a complete video if I didn't give you a example of how I go about not eating nightshades when I eat Mexican food. And so there was one night this week that I decided to make tacos, and so I recorded me making my tacos with my non-nightshade ingredients, and so I will show you this video right here. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it, and I do hope that it is helpful to you. You know, when I started doing research on how to avoid nightshades, I realized there is not really a lot of information out there. Avoiding nightshades is definitely not nearly as mainstream as, you know, avoiding gluten or avoiding dairy. And so one of my motivations for making this video was to definitely, you know, add some more information out there for everyone that needs to avoid nightshades. And so I hope that I succeeded with this video. And yeah, so if you enjoyed this video and it provided benefit to you, definitely push that like button. It definitely helps us out in the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more videos like this, I do plan to post more Nightshade-Free videos. Definitely push that subscribe button as well. I welcome you to my little community here on YouTube. And yeah, but if you have any other ideas on videos that I can make when it comes to thriving on a nightshade-free diet, definitely post your ideas down below. I will definitely welcome them. I'm definitely thinking possibly doing more cuisines, maybe Italian, Indian, Chinese, you know, American. So I do got ideas for future videos, but if you have any more, I definitely welcome your feedback. So yeah, thank you once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye everybody.